If you have an instrument, if you're playing a guitar and one of the chords are out of tune, the song is just not going to sound the same. And a lot of us are walking around out of tune with our instrument, with our vessel, with our psyche, with our heart. And we're trying to receive something that's outside of us, but really it's right here. So when we start working from within, then what's reflected on the outside is just a celebration of what we're calling it.
Welcome back to the Active Ingredient Podcast. I hope that you are doing great. We have an amazing episode for you this week. It is truly such a rich conversation. You know, I've talked about founders or artists several times on the show. I've done a solo on it, and I really like to focus my work with my agency on amplifying brands and founders that really are building in this capitalistic society, but with an artist's mindset or soul way of doing it. And this conversation was with someone who is absolutely doing just that. We have Florencia Fridman on the show. She's the founder of Cacao Lab, which is the cacao brand that I use. I talk about it right in the beginning on how I started switching out my second coffee of the day to start sipping and drinking cacao instead of coffee. And it's actually helped me so much in so many ways. I get into all of those ways in this episode, but this conversation is about cacao. It's about building a brand and integrity. It's about knowing how to, or really feeling into how to scale in a way that keeps the integrity of a brand and actually be able to serve masses while also staying in integrity, which is such a fine line. And we're always kind of like in this push pull, in this dance. But yeah, in this episode, you'll hear all about cacao as a very potent plant, especially as it pertains to healing your heart space. And I just can't really express how much this has shifted things for me in my body, in my presence, in feeling into the present moment and no longer chasing highs after the lows of caffeine. And at the time that I had recorded this episode, I had completely swapped out coffee for months. Like I was really not drinking any coffee at all. I'm now having a few coffees during the week, but mostly I'm drinking cacao. I think that there's so much that this can teach us, and especially for anybody who's healing from heartbreak and really working on opening your heart and breaking down some walls and moving from the doing to sitting in more of like a softer being and being more in the middle and not just like seeking those highs and lows. I think that this episode is going to maybe inspire you to try it for yourself, or to just maybe at least have a moment to see where in your life you might be using something that is keeping you in the chaos of the high and low, and where we can maybe swap things out that keep us more regulated, which is ultimately the goal. At least for me, I'm just like anything that can keep me regulated, that I can feel my breath, that I can feel my body, that I can create from that place and not move from fear and instead move from presence. And like, this is actually what I want. Any and all of those tools I will be sharing here. And cacao is absolutely one of them. And it totally took me by surprise. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. Florencia, thank you so much for coming on and for creating this brand and for doing what you're doing. It's amazing. And you can find their cacao on their website. And if you're in New York, they sell Cacao Lab, which is where I buy it, at Alchemist Kitchen, which is just the best store in New York. And with that, Florencia, welcome to the show. I feel like people are going to listen to this and be kind of shocked at me saying this. But since discovering Cacao Laboratory and incorporating it into my life, I have barely drank coffee.
Wow.
And I was so excited to chat with you because cacao has completely shifted things for me in a way that I did not expect. It was like totally out of the blue for me. It was also serendipitous how I kind of came across it. I was at Sui Yoga and I had just finished my class. It was a Saturday and I had time after the class, and there was a little sign that said cacao ceremony and it was starting in 10 minutes. Wow. So I was like, you know what? I have time. I've never done a cacao ceremony. I've heard people talk about it. Let's just see what it's about. Sada, I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, okay. She's one of my good friends.
Okay, so Sada was teaching, or she was facilitating the ceremony, and this really crazy wash of peace over me.
and I hadn't felt really like that before. So after I was like, Sada, where do I get this cacao? And she was like, Alchemist Kitchen sells it. I literally walked straight from there and got the cacao and had been incorporating it as my second coffee. And slowly, it's now the only thing that I'm drinking.
Wow. And how do you feel that your energy has shifted like since you started?
So that's literally why I want to have this conversation with you and why I think it's important that we talk about it, because it has shifted absolutely everything in terms of it's weird. I was explaining it to my parents. It's taken a second for me to calibrate at being in the middle. So I'm so used to being up, down, up, trying to catch the up with more caffeine or with something else, another substance that's going to help you get there. Mm-hmm. And since shifting to cacao, I'm just like in this middle where I don't need to chase anything. And that level of peace is something that I didn't know. So people don't talk about that you also need to get comfortable in the middle. Because I was like, I feel like there's something wrong. Am I as productive? Am I doing as much? But actually, being in the middle helps you be so much more consistent. And what you're creating is from a regulated place.
That's
so my energy just feels like the best way I can describe it is like it's in the middle and it's consistent. And I feel more in my body. I'm just here in the center, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's kind of like you're opening yourself to receive. And we're not used to that. Because a lot of times we're going, something that I've been really experiencing is like when we sit up straight, our heart is leading and it's not our mind. But if we're actually like this, which is what we do with like phones and social media, where our head is leading. And so that brings us into this like very logical space, but we're also protecting ourselves. So even though it's like very esoteric, it's also very practical that like when we're more open, we're going to actually be more aware of what's coming in. Mm-hmm. And I feel like with cacao, it's very much that. And I love what you're sharing because a lot of times it's like coming in from an approach of spirituality or, you know, what is like the tradition, which is also so important. And it's one of my biggest work. But at the same time, it's like, okay, that's great. But how is that coming into modern society today?
Totally. And to be fair, in addition to it being serendipitous and it was a post-yoga class and it's helped me in terms of my modern work life being in the middle from a spiritual standpoint and from opening, I didn't even realize how closed I had been spiritually. People reflect back to me like I'm so open and I share a lot, but I didn't realize how much was blocked. Yeah. And doing that class with Sada and her explaining how it's really a heart-opening practice and it is extremely spiritual, I connected with it in a way deeper way. And I think you're spot on with the receiving. I think we're entering an era right now where that is hopefully going to lead. But I hear and I feel collectively more and more people ready.
Yeah.
And it is just something that we weren't modeled.
Yeah, absolutely. We weren't shown that way. So when it shows up, it's very foreign.
Yeah.
And just like anything new, we have to like practice. So I love what you're sharing about having it be kind of uncomfortable at first because we're not used to it.
No, you're not used to it. And like we're so praised for the doing and for the more masculine side of things. And sitting with yourself and seeing what it feels like to be in that energy, it does take calibration. So for anybody who's starting, I feel like that's also, I'm curious about your journey and like, did it take calibration for you to start undoing and unlearning being in the up and down for so long to then regulate in a place of just like stability?
Absolutely. It's taken me like 10 years. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it gets easier with time, but I absolutely feel that. And I feel being in New York, you're just constantly stimulated. So to actually move to New Jersey and be in a space where I'm like, actually, I'm more at peace when I'm not overly stimulated, but I didn't know that because I was so distracted with the outside world. And I feel like cacao helped me really be comfortable in my home and my heart, which is something so new for me.
Yeah. Where do you feel like you disconnected? And I feel like there's probably multiple touch points, but I think the whole point of this podcast is the return. Do you have recollections of when you were kind of disconnecting from that ability to connect with your heart space with being in the receiving, or was that just something you didn't experience?
You know, it's very interesting because I'm in this process of coming back to that understanding. I've been moving through it, but now I'm in a space where I'm observing and going kind of down the memory lane. So I love that you bring up this question. I feel like it started through childhood most of us from conception to the age of 7 or 11 is where we're like sponges. So we're just kind of modeling from the outside world, and we create that as our way forward and like how we move through the world, even if we don't realize it. And I feel like coming to the United States from Argentina was a big one because I was literally disconnected from my roots and a new language.
Why did you guys come?
Just family stuff. Like my dad stayed in Argentina and we decided my mom wanted a new life. And I feel like that brought up a totally new concept, a new identity. The way that I spoke English and Spanish are very different languages, and like how, I don't know if you know any friends that speak.
I'm Latin.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. I'm half Venezuelan and Cuban, but I was born in Miami, which is the difference, I guess.
Yeah. And do you
but
speak
the language,
Spanish?
Yeah, the language switching is real.
Yeah.
And it's like your identity. It's just like, what is it? You know?
Yeah. There's like the Sophie that's like
the Sophie that's at home
Spanish.
is only speaking Spanish with her mom.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. And I feel for me, like I didn't understand those two, and I really suppressed my Spanish roots until I started working with cacao and like reconciliating with South America and Central America. And this, we call plants medicine because they're definitely, you know, healing us spiritually, but they also have so many physical benefits that are assisting us. And I feel like this was such a powerful teacher and medicine for me to be like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. Let's sit and explore it. And if there's tears that need to come up, great. If there's joy, like, what is that? And can we go deeper into these things? So I've been approaching it from a space of curiosity, and it's been a really beautiful experience.
I'm curious, what is prompting that for you now to like go back to the reconciliation with your roots and your Latinness? What's the spark to get you to do that now?
Well, I feel like I was suppressing it because my environment didn't match that experience. I grew up in a very conservative town in New Jersey and very different from South America, and even more different from where this plant is really used. It doesn't come from my roots. Cacao is really from the Amazon, but through the trading system, it moved to Mesoamerica, where a lot of the Mayan tradition and communities there work with cacao in ritual and in ceremony. So for me, this was like a very new experience. But to become a translator for a lot of the elders helped me really be proud of these roots.
Yeah.
So.
But did something happen recently for you to say, I want to look back at my own relationship to being Latin?
Not necessarily just being Latin, but I think just coming into all of the fractured pieces of who I was and bringing them whole.
How are you doing that?
Have you heard of reality creation?
No.
It's an amazing practice. It's kind of like manifestation, but you're working on your, I'm going to sound so esoteric.
Go for it. This is the place to do it, honestly. Please. I love hearing things I haven't heard of before. So it's called reality creation.
Yeah. So it's a form of manifestation, and you're working with your energetic frequency. So if you have an instrument, like if you're playing a guitar and one of the chords are out of tune, the song is just not going to sound the same. And a lot of us are walking around out of tune with our instrument, with our vessel, with our psyche, with our heart. And we're trying to receive something that's outside of us, but really it's right here. So when we start working from within, then what's reflected on the outside is just a celebration of what we're calling in. So by doing this work, I started really observing. There's a beautiful quote. I don't know if you know Rumi. So there's a beautiful quote by Rumi that says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have set against it. And I feel like that's what this plant does.
Wow. So what is this practice though in the integration piece? Like what does that look like to attune your vessel?
So in many different ways. So for me, it's calling in what I'm wanting to bring into my life, but not as a desire. A lot of times we set intentions as, I would like $1 million in my bank account. But that's a desire versus a decision. So when we're making a decision, we're committing and we're having a conversation with that creative life force, whatever the name of that is for you. And you're saying, okay, I'm ready to have this experience. And for me, when I started working with this, I realized there's so many walls, like Rumi said. Like I was yearning for love, but I wasn't necessarily observing the walls that were there. So it's been a really
beautiful like shedding,
journey.
Man.
Yeah.
Shedding layer after layer after layer.
Yeah.
How did you first get curious about cacao in the first place? I feel like with anyone that I have on the show that has found a modality or something, I'm so curious about the place that you were in in your life personally to even be
Yeah.
open to that?
It was I feel like it was lifetimes ago. I was just recently divorced. I got married in my early 20s. So at 25, I got divorced and I was kind of in this search. I was always into wellness. My mom showed us spirituality, but she was more in the Hindu tradition. I was kind of curious about, wellness and food and nutrition, but I was never really into a specific like spiritual realm or especially with like shamanism. But I ended up in Guatemala.
How did you end up there?
Life just like brought me there. I was kind of seeing somebody that wanted to go, and I wanted to do a whole journey down South America. And I was like, okay, I'm compromising with you. We'll go to Guatemala, but then I want to go to all these other countries. And last minute, we end up just going to Guatemala. And the very last minute, he ends up not wanting to go. So I'm going to this country that I know nothing about, going to a small village that it was my second trip, I think, outside of the States since we moved back.
What made you want to actually follow through with it then?
Because I'm a committed person. So it's like, okay, if I'm supposed to go, I mean, I'm not going to cancel this trip just because someone doesn't want to come with me. And so I did the
I don't think you realize how powerful that is. I don't think you realize how many people would cancel the trip if the person that they were going with isn't going anymore. Just a little aside.
That's wild because that's where the magic is. I feel like for me, that person came into my life to show me my new reality.
To like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful. We learned about lucid dreaming, astral projection. So going into deep states of meditation.
Was it like a retreat?
It's a school.
Okay.
It's a school called the Pyramids of Ka. So it's working on the energetic body. And they do like a month-long cycle. And one of the elders that was working for that school did a random cacao ceremony. And he happens to be, of Mayan tradition, Mayan Cachiquel, who's now a really good friend of mine and mentors within my apprenticeship program. And so it's wild how one ceremony can change your whole direction.
Yeah. So what did you feel in that one?
I remember opening my eyes, and I can still remember this moment almost 10 years later, like opening my eyes and just looking at the stars, just being like, I'm home. Like, this is not like I've had crazier adventures, but that simplicity, that peace that you're talking about.
It's like a wave over you.
Yeah. And I feel like that's who we truly are. And then we put all these layers, that help us navigate this physical reality. But that sense of peace, I feel like that's when we know that we're home in our hearts. So at that moment, I had a vision, which was working with my brother. Did not think it was going to be a cacao brand, and I did not think it was going to be ceremony because I didn't really have a lot of experience back then with ceremony. But I just felt like it would be some sort of experience with maybe other plant medicines and my brother and I working together. And a year later, we started our brand.
Oh, it's so incredible. Also, like the sibling of it all. How did you know that that's what you wanted to do and that you wanted to do it with him?
It was a message. And back then I was working.
And how did you hear it?
I had a vision.
Okay.
I had a vision of like us two being in a space. And somehow, for some reason, I said like, okay, I want to do this with my brother. I think because we needed a lot of healing. When you come from a single mother immigrant family, it becomes very challenging. You're very much in survival. And so your siblings are your best friends, but also your enemies in some ways. So I feel like this like brand, the spirit of the brand and cacao itself came to our lives to be able to heal a lot of our lineage, but also the dynamics that we have with each other.
I'm curious his relationship to cacao. So you do this trip, you're just like washed over with this piece and have this vision. You come back and you tell him we need to start a business together.
No, actually, I went back to the restaurant industry and I was working and kind of gave up. That was a sweet moment, and I just continued.
Did you pitch it to him then?
No.
Oh, you kept it to yourself.
Yeah, it was just a vision that I had, and I was like, okay, that was sweet. When you're away on a retreat, you're like, or an experience like that, I feel like you're receiving true wisdom, but then the mind gets in the way. So I went.
That's how this started, by the way, on a trip, not a retreat, but it was like that, like download. And we just executed it that day, which is why it happened.
Wow.
But it's so interesting how those things do happen. I don't know if it's just in the US, but I feel like we envision work, like important work, to be sitting on a computer on your laptop. And I'm like, every big idea I have ever had has been so disconnected from any of the things that you would envision as work. All of them.
Absolutely. I feel like my life has been that since that moment with cacao. Since that,
Yeah.
I mean, for the last, again, like almost 10 years, we've been on this experience with my brother through the brand, and then on a personal level, learning from indigenous communities from different parts of the world, that if I was like a logical person, that would totally not make sense.
Totally. Okay, so you come back, the mind's getting in the way. You're like, cute thought, but I'm just going to keep doing my life here and like whatever. At what point is it still coming back and you're like, no, we need to do this?
So I had this one guy that he probably has no idea that also changed my life.
Okay.
So he came into the restaurant, was having lunch because
Was
he
it
was
your
on a
restaurant?
trip. No, I
Oh,
was
you were
just a
working at a
server.
restaurant. Okay.
Not just a server. I was a server
Yeah.
at a restaurant.
Yeah.
But this guy came in and he was telling me that his job was to go around the world and taste chocolate. And I was like, that's a job? I come from Patagonia, this small town that is a chocolate town, not ceremonial cacao, but like complete chocolate town. And then
How funny.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like some things are destiny.
So, I mean, yes, for sure.
So when he tells me this, I went back to my roommate and I was like, can't believe this guy, like that's his job. She told me, she's like, you could do that too. And I was like, that's sweet, thank you. But I did not believe it. And then she was going to South Africa. So she's like, why don't you come with me? I was like, sure. I mean, I was still very hesitant of traveling back then because it was very new to me. But I was like, I mean, I don't know why South Africa again, right? The question.
Yeah.
But I had a friend that lived there. So the three of us ended up doing a beautiful experience, kind of like a retreat for ourselves. And then I had the vision. I was about to get
the same one.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was about to get married again. And
You're like, here we are again. Same situation. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry. Keep going.
So I looked at it sounds so cliche, but I swear this is true. I looked at the full moon one night that we were there and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get married again. I'm barely like, healing my heart. And I really want to do this with my brother. So I ended up my relationship right there and called my brother and I was like, we weren't talking
how far
at the time.
into, oh really? Wait,
Yeah.
How far into your engagement did you call it off?
It was like he proposed right before I was leaving.
Oh,
and it was
okay.
like a conversation. It wasn't like I didn't have the ring. It was just like, okay, when you get back, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he was like, what do you mean you're gonna quit your jobs? And I didn't even have like a super important job, but it's like you can't just start something like that. Like you have no background in business. All of this hesitation, which I understand it comes from his personal process of fear and like being grounded.
Yeah.
But I called my brother and I was like, hey, I know we're not in like good terms, but I would love to do this with you. And he was like, okay, well, I want to kind of start doing an e-commerce brand. So I'll use this as a model and we'll see what happens. And here we are 9 years and a half later.
What was keeping you and your brother's relationship kind of like at arm's length?
I mean, in the moment, it was my relationship, but I feel like it was more just the process of upbringing. I think like there's a lot of pain that kind of gets blamed on each other when you are in survival and you don't know how to handle certain situations.
Yeah.
So I think it was just life. And, I think this plant really came so we can each heal our own process and also give us a purpose.
And so his relationship to cacao, like at what point he's like, I want to do this because it's a great D2C opportunity and model. At what point is he like, oh, wow, no, this is actually healing me?
It's hard to say because I feel like it's always been like I'm doing my little sister a favor. But yeah, in that
do you
process,
still feel that?
I don't feel that.
Okay.
I don't know if he does, but I feel like we helped each other and we've both grown a lot through the process. And I really love that at first, he really wanted to believe in my dream and my mission because he's always the person that's there whenever I need to figure out something when I'm in that space of like, I don't know what to do. He's my go-to. He's like definitely my anchor. But I feel like there's been so much healing on his end. And we recently did a documentary about a year ago where he talks about this openly. And that's the first time that I heard him kind of call it how much this has helped his personal life.
How so? I mean, I want to watch the documentary, but what does he say in it?
So he's saying how before this, he was around a lot of rough people and had a really different lifestyle and how cacao really helped him soften and understand unconditional love, which coming from somebody who's very like he's in the world of finance.
That's exactly why I'm asking the question. That's like precisely why I'm asking the question, because it's like it's different for us to talk about our relationship to receiving and to trying to soften our hearts as women. But as a man who's in finance and like probably in a high-paced environment, that's also super interesting to me. And I think needed now more than ever to have more examples of men who are welcoming that into their lives.
Yeah, and I think that we need to give men opportunities. I know that there's a lot of toxic masculinity, but where is it coming from? You know, I don't think that there's enough models of men that are doing the work of self-healing while also honoring their masculinity. And I feel like Cacao can be such an important, you know, support system in that.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so can we give a background on what someone can expect when they start a cacao journey? We had our both experiences, but what is happening in the body when you start to consume cacao? Also, what's the difference between ceremonial grade cacao and regular cacao?
Yes, amazing question. So on a physical level, cacao has over 300 biochemical responses. So there's a ton of benefits. Magnesium is actually one of the biggest, I feel like. So many of us are deficient in magnesium, and cacao is one of the richest foods of this mineral. So it helps us relax the muscles, the joints, the nervous system, which is probably part of what you were saying with the
1000%.
Yeah, it also has theobromine, which is an active compound that dilates the blood vessels and stimulates blood flow. So you get like this rush of energy as well, but it's not like coffee. No offense to our coffee drinkers.
Yeah, like I could have this like till later in the day, which is super interesting to me. Like if I was drinking coffee, I would have to stop at 2, and even then I would be like weird in the second half of the day.
And you crash too, right?
With cacao, I can be like sipping on the same one. I'll just like put more hot water till 4 or 5, and I'm totally fine.
Yeah, with cacao, it's much more balanced and it's longer
stable.
lasting.
Yeah.
So though that combination I think is really powerful. There's also the compound of phenylethylamine that's released in the body, which is the same compound that we release when we fall in love.
I heard you say this on a podcast,
Yes.
and I was hoping you would say it.
That's one of my favorite things to talk about, because I feel like I didn't really know love, and I'm still getting to know it, but I didn't know what we actually meant by unconditional love. And so I started working with cacao. So that's
what do you know about it now?
I feel like it's that in between space. I think that we have this idea that love needs to be passionate, and that's a part of it. But I feel like true love is that peace that you were saying that you felt. And that's why it's so uncomfortable for so many of us, because we have this idea through the romantic, you know, movies and songs that it needs to be painful or intense and passionate in order to be true. But I feel when I see older couples in love, they're in silence and they're just resting in each other's presence. And I see the way that my dog, you know, looks at me, and it's just pure peace. Yeah. So I feel like that's one of the biggest teachings from this plant.
I'm curious for you, like, how have you calibrated? Like, are you telling yourself this is what it's supposed to feel like? To not feel the up and down. It's supposed to feel like this.
I feel like I get curious more than like telling myself. It's like, okay, this is interesting. Right? Like, what does this mean? How does it actually land? Because I feel when I had all of the lifestyle that would create the overstimulation and, you know, the ups and downs, I didn't feel at peace. Like I had a lot of anxiety. I would go through moments of depression. And I feel like with cacao, it's been much more stable, and I can go to the same places where I used to have that intensity, but I'm actually like arriving in peace even in those places.
It's so true.
And it's about getting curious with it, right? Like, how does it feel to actually live from this space? And that, going back to reality creation, when you can create from that space, then it actually comes much easier, because you're not forcing it to happen, but you're actually receiving the experience that you're calling in.
Can we talk about receiving from a practical standpoint? Because I am on this receiving journey too, and it's very uncomfortable for me. I'm also very much still operating a little bit in my masculine. But how, for someone who's struggling to start to receive, like, what advice do you have on just getting comfortable with knowing that everything will be resolved if you are not the one to do it?
That's a great question. I feel cacao, definitely. And then also silence meditations. I've been working with that a lot for the last few months, the last like 2 months. And I feel like it creates so much stillness. So then I realized, like, where am I blocked? Like, if I'm feeling, or you can even do noting as well, like observing, okay, somebody's going to give me something. What happens to my body? Sometimes we'll feel like a knot in our stomach, or the shoulders kind of like round. So in that space, like, what does it need to soften? And the way that the body responds gives us a lot of messages. But I think, yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious about being Latin too, about like, I feel like sometimes when it's like you receive something, my knee-jerk reaction is to want to give it back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like the holding of it. I'm now starting to receive, but then I'm like, I immediately get it. And I'm like, well, now I want to share it, you know?
That's beautiful. That's sacred reciprocity, which is like one of the main principles in so many indigenous traditions. And so I think that's another great point. The more that you receive, the more that you're actually able to give. That's been a thing with
you see,
me.
but sometimes I think it's coming from a place of like, oh my God, I'm receiving too much. I can't have, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I'm getting it. Now I have to give it back.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like that scarcity mindset,
Yeah.
where when we look at nature, there's so much that we can learn from nature. Like the mycelium network is all giving information back and forth, you know, and it's not trying to like hold on to something or say, I don't want that information. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but from what I've seen, it's like such a
very
beautiful,
generous.
such a beautiful network.
Yeah.
So I think just like finding the stillness, and even if it's uncomfortable, like finding the softness in it. How have you been practicing it?
Practicing what?
The receiving.
Noticing first when it's happening. I feel like I had been calling in more of that energy without realizing where I was actually receiving already. So first, it's like the same with a gratitude practice where you start to spot things more, and then realizing that I have been receiving in certain ways and not identifying it as receiving. And then from that seed of being able to like actually notice and be like, oh, that was so nice when this person did this, or when they offered this, or when they supported me in this way, like starting with the noticing has expanded it. And so now where I'm at in my practice with receiving is sitting with it, like being able to hold that versus wanting to just give it and give it and give it, you know?
Yeah.
So I do love to give, but it's like I want to sit in the hold for a little bit longer just so that I can calibrate. Like, you know, not because I'm wanting to hoard it, but because I am not used to recognizing that level of receiving.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I feel like, noting is amazing. And then also bringing in this practice of, you know, working with cacao can help also in community and like sitting with friends and like opening that space of like talking about it. Doing eye gazing can also be very powerful because it's like,
I feel like we're doing it right now.
We've been doing it the whole time. But
I'm like, is this eye gazing?
Yeah, but doing it in silence, it gets so uncomfortable at first. But we do, I do a lecture at NYU and I co-facilitated with another professor, and he will do eye gazing for them. I'm like, wow, these young kids are really courageous.
Yeah.
And there's no words. It's just witnessing each other. And I remember the first few times I did it, I just like wanted to look away or wanted to close my eyes, you know, or I could feel the tension in my body because it's not only that you're receiving, but you're being fully seen.
What's your relationship like to being seen?
I feel like cacao really helped me kind of heal that. I used to have a lot of social anxiety and I did not want to, even though I'm a Leo, I have a lot of Leo in my chart, I did not like that tension. But I feel like with cacao, you're in ceremony, it's not about you, it's like a collective process. And so that helped me kind of feel comfortable in bigger crowds. And now I'm like, yeah, give me a mic.
Really? How long did that take?
Took years. It took years of sitting with myself. Like my first few experiences with cacao, like for the first maybe year and a half, was like just sitting in silence. Well, not silence, but sitting with myself for like 2-3 hours and kind of sitting in the discomfort. Sometimes it was like, you know, the whole time I'm crying. Sometimes it was like, I want to, what is it like to grab a drum and play a drum? Because I'm not a musician. What is it like to journal? Like, what does my heart want to do? What does my inner child want to do in this moment?
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
I'm so curious about the business of it too, because we live in a world where the business side of things still is operating in the very masculine space. And to be coming at it from this energy that you have, I am so excited to see more brands and businesses build this way with that like truth and beingness. Have you felt this level of trust in that the whole way through? Or has it been an evolution to get to a place where you can actually like build this way versus the old way of building?
It's been very challenging, and we deal with challenges every day because it is a lot more difficult to run a brand with the ethos that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a passion, and it's been really beautiful to see how much our community supports our vision. And I think we would be nothing without the community that we've been able to build. But we called it a lab because it's an experiment on many forms. For me, it's like, how do you heal the system within the system? So not trying to start an alternative route, but like going deep within. And we bring cacao to, I've done stuff at Google, I've done stuff at NYU. And so it's
so
beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see that society is ready for the change. So how do we start? We don't have models of what these kind of experiences are like. I feel like this new way of working in reciprocity and really taking the acknowledgement of the value chain all the way through there is definitely brands that are doing it, but not so much with plants like cacao or plants that are part of our daily life.
And not like mass scale brands.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't even know if that's possible to do something at this level of intentionality at scale.
Well, that's been our biggest thing, because for me, it's always and I think my brother knows where my heart is. So he pushes a lot of like, okay, how do we scale? And for me, I've always been like, but wait. And so there's been this push and pull, which has been amazing. Too. Yeah. And I think it takes both of us to really make the bigger vision happen. He's amazing behind the scenes, to really think all the systems all the way through.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we really do want this to grow, because the more that we can get cacao, it's not just the brand growing, but like getting
what it's doing to people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm most excited about. That's the thing that I just want to shout from the rooftops when brands like that exist. But I do get so curious on like the execution of that on the back end, like, okay, we get Cacao Laboratory everywhere. On the back end, you're going to indigenous communities to do this, right?
So I learned from indigenous communities, and we work with small family farms, not all of the communities that we farm from. And I think that's something that people do assume. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Okay.
We work with small family farms that work with heirloom strains.
Got it.
So on the quality of cacao for us, like that's really important, because
it's incredible, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of the oldest strains. Rio Nacional has been dated back to like 5,300 years, and that's been found in like one of the oldest vessels. So we know that it comes from the Amazon region, and we work in the coast of Ecuador, but very close to the Amazon. So it's been amazing, and we continue, the more that we can bring cacao to the world, the more farmers that we can support. Yet cacao is dealing with a lot of issues lately, with climate change, with genetically engineered foods that are or seeds that are being introduced, monocropping. Like all of these things have had a big impact on the industry, especially with like high quality strains.
Yeah. So when you're with your brother and he's, with an idea of scale, and you're like, well, this might compromise integrity, how are you making decisions? And I'm saying this for someone, the audience is very entrepreneurial, people who are highly intentional people. Where are you willing to be a little bit more flexible in order to get it to more people? And where are you like, absolutely not, we're not doing that?
That's a great question. I think it starts with first getting really your model set. The first like 3, 4, even 5 years, I was very close-minded. If it did not start with a ceremonial practice, if they were not using it for ceremonial use, I did not want it out in the world. And then it started kind of when the medicine and the model of the brand started really working together, and we were established and understanding, okay, this is a sacred plant. Then I started being more open-minded, but we had to educate.
Like meaning that there were different roads to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also just like educating people into like what we stand for, because if right away we were like ceremonial cacao for everyone and everything, we wouldn't have a foundation or an identity, and you couldn't really see the integrity.
Yeah.
At least that's my take on it. Like now people know that we carry a sacred plant, but it can be introduced into other spaces. So that reverence can still be there. So it took a long time for us to be able to be like, okay, now we can branch out a little bit more. But for me,
how did that feel when you went from doing it the way that was the 3-4 years of you like, this has to be at this level, when you switched to doing it to a different way that you were able to hit more scale? How did that feel for you?
It was uncomfortable at first, but then I realized like, actually, I'm able to help a lot more people because some people may not come
at the
to
level
ceremony.
that you want, like at the level of quality that you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think I learned to be more compassionate. I was a little judgmental when I started my path.
That's a great call out.
Yeah.
Love.
It felt like if you didn't understand ceremonial cacao, why are you using it? And in reality, this is a plant that's healing the heart. So who am I to say who's good enough for cacao or not? And when I found that compassion, I've seen so many people that would maybe not sit in ceremony, but they are healing their heart and they're healing their thoughts. And, they're able to change their lives because they have this moment, this practice that's unique to them.
Ugh, it's so beautiful. I do think that there's that push-pull. And I think a lot of brand founders, especially the ones that listen to Active Ingredient, are sitting with that. Like they might have the seedling of an idea and they're like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to make this a viable business. Or they have an existing business that they know can only reach a certain level, but want to take it further because they're like, I know that what I'm doing can help and service so many people. And I think that judgment piece is huge because it's like, if that's actually your goal, but then also having an integrity on like, how far are you willing to take it?
Absolutely. We've had, other brands approach us. I remember there was one brand that worked with CCN 51, which is a genetically engineered crop. And they wanted us to do events at their space. It would have been a great opportunity for Cacao Lab back then. To be able to get into the market and be able to get into supermarkets. But I was like, no, but my brother and I both said, no, like this is part of like what we stand for. So we can't be selling genetically engineered cacao if we're standing for ceremonial cacao.
I feel like that type of decision making is what is going to allow for brands like yours to survive. I feel like there's going to be like a shedding of the leaves of the ones that have made the decision to just do the easy, cheap shot, so I'm saying this also for anyone listening that's maybe at that crossroads. It's like, maybe you have to sit with the discomfort of it not being, you're not in every single grocery store, but down the line your community is going to ride for you.
Yeah, and educating your community.
Yeah,
I think that's important. There's a lot of ceremonial cacao brands out there, but there's very few that talk about what strains they're using, where's their cacao coming from. We have direct connection to our farmers. We have content that shows and educates our community of like why this is important. So I think if you have a certain level of integrity for a specific, direction of your brand, being loud about it is really important because otherwise you're keeping that to yourself and people around you may not see why you're kind of growing at a slower level.
I love that. How do you, like, what are your platforms or ways that you're shouting and educating?
I do an apprenticeship program and we also have a lot of stuff on YouTube. We have a documentary series that we show our whole process with our farmers. We did a cacao and climate change film that talks about the challenges that the industry is having and why ceremonial cacao is important. And then we also have another short documentary that talks more about like the spiritual aspect of cacao.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the spiritual aspect of cacao a little bit more. What is something that you wish that everybody knew about it from a spiritual lens?
Well, it's been used by indigenous communities from the Amazon for thousands of years. And it comes from, even though, again, it comes from the Amazon, they were the ones that have been protecting and keeping the ritual alive. There's a lot of controversy on like, what is a cacao ceremony? Is it something that's new or is it something that truly has roots? And I've sat with many elders that have worked with cacao in a sacred way. I don't know if the ceremonies today are the same one that they were back when the Mayan civilizations had their pyramids active, but there's been vessels that have, specific cacao recipes, who the king was that was using that cacao vessel and what the prayer or the ritual was for. So obviously there's been such a sacred plant for so long. And I feel like it's a really important, medicine right now to help us come back to clarity, to unification, and to move from the mind, the judgment of the mind, to really activate the heart.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
How are people finding you right now?
Mostly through Instagram and also YouTube. We have a few YouTube videos that are pretty, available. And just like you found me through people that have done my apprenticeship.
So I talk about this on Active Ingredient all the time on how like we are all waking up so much faster. And like what I said about the shaking of the leaves, like I feel like we are going to keep gravitating more and more towards truth in all things, in brands, in people, in voices, and everything. And you can't manufacture what I felt when I had Cacao Laboratory. Do you say laboratory or laboratory, or how do you say it?
I mean, I have
Cacao
a
Lab.
Spanish accent, so laboratory.
Laboratory.
But, Cacao Lab.
Cacao Lab. But you can't manufacture the feeling that I had when I had Cacao Lab. I don't know if it was like the setting of Sada singing with the gods essentially and like sipping that cacao in that situation, but then also the touch point of then going to Alchemist Kitchen and seeing it in a place that also has a frequency. And all of these decisions that, compound, and then a person is seeing it in all these places, all of that together, to me, I'm like, this brand means this to me.
Yeah, I was very, very picky, and I was very difficult as a business partner for my brother. And I think,
but in the best way, in a long-term way.
Yeah.
That I hope he recognizes, because it's like I'm in this space and I see a million brands. I can't tell you how many brands I'm looking at. What you've done, very few brands can do. And I know that takes a level of discernment that I hope that your brother recognizes as extremely powerful.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, it's been so incredible to see, something that's so ancient to come to New York City and be able to grow this community in New York. And now it's worldwide. I'm actually going on my second European tour.
You're shipping worldwide?
We're doing Europe, Canada, and the US.
Okay.
And I leave next week for my second European tour. So
what does that mean? A European tour of cacao?
Yeah, I'm doing ceremonies in Slovenia, in Croatia, and in Italy.
Where in Italy?
Right outside of Verona.
Oh my gosh.
Small town of Verona.
What a dream.
Yeah, in Verona.
This is your life. You became the girl who is just going around the world having chocolate.
Yeah, my roommate at the time was
Your roommate was a prophet.
Yes.
Where is she these days? I
Good
should chat with her.
question.
Maybe she's psychic.
She is. She's a great entrepreneur herself.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's been amazing there's been so many moments that we're like, and even right now we're like, can we do this? We just had to raise our prices, and it was very difficult because we've always been the more affordable brand. And that's because we really want to make it accessible. With the upbringing that my brother and I had, we had a lot of blessings along the way, but it was very difficult. And I wasn't able to afford ceremonial cacao, in the lifestyle that I had, but yet I needed it. So we really wanted to make it accessible. And when we had to raise our prices, we really worked in the idea of how can we make this where our community knows that this is not a selfish act, but like we're still thinking about them in every meeting that we have. So we did like a hardship fund, where we have a certain amount of people that will get a discounted cacao. So I think it's really thinking about being in someone else's shoes and how would you like a brand to show up? Because a lot of times we're making survival decisions of like, okay, what does the brand need in order to make it? Instead of thinking, what is the purpose of the brand? I believe that every brand has a spirit. And that's why at the beginning, we were tending to the baby face, right? And then eventually, right now, it's about to reach the teenage years.
Yeah,
and so it's much more rebellious.
Is Cacao Lab?
We started in 2017.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, 8 years, almost 9.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. I'm curious your take on coffee and how every corner there's a coffee shop. And since I've transitioned from coffee to cacao, I'm like, please, Florencia, for the love of God, please have Cacao Lab everywhere, because it's my favorite way to connect with people, or how it used to be is, go to a yoga class and get a coffee after. And now I'm like, where am I going to find cacao? There's few places to like actually sit down with someone and like have a cacao. And I'm like, can we get this in every coffee shop?
I think we need a movement. I think collectively we gotta get.
We need it everywhere
movement.
that people are having coffee.
Yeah. Actually, in Europe, when it was first introduced, after, they brought it from Central America to Europe, they used to have cacao cafes where they would sit and talk about politics and talk about these different challenges. So I feel like it's so important, and we've tried.
It's like
but
so important. And it's,
Yeah.
but I also think it's like meeting people where they're at, you know, like there's so many me's of the world that's like, I want to go to the cute coffee shop that's beautiful and aesthetic and all the things. And if cacao from Cacao Lab is on the menu, I'm choosing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the same conversation I had with Melanie from Gia. You know, I do know the Gia, the non-alcoholic aperitivo brand.
No.
Oh, I need to show it to you. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I was like, when I first chatted with her, they were in a few restaurants. Now they're in almost every single restaurant and bar that you can think of in the city. And I'm like,
Wow.
I'm so grateful because everywhere I go, I'm like, oh, thank God. I don't have to think about it anymore. It's just already meeting me where I am.
Yeah.
So I think about it for you too. And I'm like, I want you everywhere because I wherever I'm meeting with someone, I would choose that over having a coffee or like a bleak chamomile.
Yes, I
You know?
totally agree. I mean, I like coffee, and when I'm in Italy next week, I'll probably have a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
but I don't feel the same. Like, I feel like it makes me jittery. My day is just
Not the same.
completely different. And I love to like sit with my friends over a cup of cacao over anything else, because then we're not overstimulated, but we can have heart-centered conversations, even if it's about, how's your day going? Like, what's going on in your life? So I definitely think that a city like New York definitely needs more cacao, and that's been kind of our next phase. But
We need you in every coffee shop.
I feel like we just have to get a group of us to just like hop around our favorite coffee shops and be like, can you get this on the menu?
No, literally. Yeah, I'm curious also from a business standpoint, like, does that make sense for them business-wise? Like if they're selling it at the same price that they're selling?
I think like I would pay a little bit more for ceremonial cacao over coffee if I know that that's like the drink that I'm craving. And we actually have these guided meditations that you can do from your phone that are like 10 minutes long. So I think that for places like that, if you're going to be working all day on your computer,
Totally
drinking a cup of cacao, you put that in your headphones for 10 minutes, like it totally changes your experience.
A few coffee shops are going to get a little knock on the door from me.
Yes.
And be like, have you ever considered? I also just think people need to be like educated, just like continue the education. People need to know something that you didn't mention that I'm curious about, because I've felt this like so intensely with drinking cacao, is that my blood sugar feels really regulated. My craving for sugar at the end of the day, it used to be just insane, like insanity. Like I still like to have chocolate from Hue Kitchen,
Love them.
But I still love to have it at night. But before, it was just like my sugar cravings at night were insane. And since having cacao, it's more stable. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cacao is a vasodilator, so it lowers your blood pressure as well. And it also has so many natural fats. Like, it's 50% solids, 50% fat, so it will slow down your metabolism as well. And it also helps you receive more of the nutrients because of the fat. So
if anyone's on a receiving journey, if anyone's on your receiving journey, I think that this could be a really strong place to start.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have a playlist or any meditations that you recommend that we can put it in the show notes for people to listen to or meditate to while sipping?
So I love Ram Dass. There's a song called Sit Around the Fire Sitting Around the Fire. I just love when he says, don't worship the gate, walk into the inner temple. And that's what this plant does.
Yep. That sound, what it's like, is it mantra song? Like, what is that? It's like
that's a great question.
Otherworldly vibration.
Yeah, I mean, East Forest in general, he is incredible. He does a lot of work he was one of the last people that interviewed Ram Dass and has amazing songs like connected with Ram Dass' voice. And he has another one called Lovingly. It's an album that he recently released. It's a 5-hour long album.
Send me the link to that. I'll add it to the show notes. / we'll listen to it nonstop.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it.
And also, let me think for a moment. I mean, I have so many amazing friends that are incredible musicians. Giselle World is amazing. Waida, who I think needs more music out there, but incredible musician. And my friend Natalia Clavier just released an album that's called Song Apothecary. So it's all about kind of tuning in to this. And I highly recommend Natalia Clavier.
Okay. I'm going to need a list of that after this for sure. So I always ask every guest, which we kind of did talk about a little bit, but I want to hear from you what your essence was like as a kid. And the reason that I asked the question, it's the reason why I do the show, is that I feel like we all have this essence, this like truth. It's the same thing that's in that Ram Dass song, meditation, whatever it is, like that flame, that like original essence that we
ember.
forget, the ember that we forget. And we think that the ember is out. We think that it's like we're so disconnected from it. We don't even know or remember what it is. I'm curious what you remember of your original childlike essence, like your original ember. And if you feel like you're embodying and living in that essence today.
Yeah, wow, what a beautiful question.
Thank you.
So my name is Florencia, which means to flourish. And I feel like your name has a lot to do with who you become. And I feel I was very much a flowery person. I used to love writing cards, gratitude cards to my best friends when they were coming over, and I would pick like roses from the garden for them.
I love that.
And I also used to love dressing up, and I wanted to be an actress and a singer. So I feel like that is definitely what Cacao brought into my life. You know, when we are in ceremony, it's not that you're acting, but there's another quality of yourself that comes in. Like I'm learning so much of that ceremony Florencia voice, because as I'm sharing, I'm also listening, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense to me.
So it's an archetype. And I feel like with acting, it's very much you're connecting with different archetypes. So I feel like this plant helped me embody, and they say that it connects you to your inner child. But yeah, it's brought a lot of that innocence, that gratitude, that like joy that I had before, you know, reality started conditioning us into a certain way.
Well, I'm so happy that you are there and that you're embodying that Florencia way of being. Is there anything that I didn't say about Cacao that you're like, I just wish that everybody knew this?
Let me take a moment for this. I think that remembering the simplicity, a lot of people think that in order to connect with Cacao, that you need to sit in ceremony. Otherwise, you know, you shouldn't drink it. But I feel like taking a moment each day, but really making it a conscious effort of, doesn't need to be super wild ritual, but a beautiful moment for yourself where you sit in gratitude, you acknowledge the people in your life, the energies in your life that are helping you navigate this wild world. It can really shift the way. When you're talking about receiving, I feel like Cacao helps us receive the day instead of trying to catch up to it.
It's so good. It's so good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, God. I'm so grateful for you, for real.
Yeah.
Like, truly, I'm grateful for this big time.